Hi, I hope you're all doing well today. In this lesson I'm going to show you that you don't need complex scales like the melodic minor scale for instance and the modes of this scale to get a richer sound when improvising. And of course you can play those scales and when used in the right way they sound really awesome, but even with a simple 5-note pentatonic scale you can get surprisingly sophisticated and musical sounds. So in this video you will see 5 levels of this basic scale that can lead to beautiful lines that transcend the sound of just an A minor pentatonic scale over an A minor chord. So let's start right away and take a look at the essence of the pentatonic scale. Now the pentatonic scale is the most used scale on guitar when you are playing music like for instance jazz, fusion, blues, rock and pop. Now if you are playing classical music then you would primarily use the diatonic major and minor scale. Now this video is all about the pentatonic scale, where the word penta means 5, referring to the 5 notes in the scale. Now the A minor pentatonic scale looks like this. It has a root A minor 3rd C, a perfect 4th D, perfect 5th E and a minor 7th G. Now the major pentatonic scale comes next in the line of most used scales for guitar, and the C pentatonic scale is built with the root C, the 2nd degree D, which is also the 9th, the major 3rd E, the 5th G and the major 6th A. Although it's used extensively in Western music, it has its origin in Asia, where it was developed independently in countries like India, Japan and China. And when you play it in a certain way you can still hear the Asian origin. Now there's one property that sets the scale apart from the diatonic major and minor scale, and that is the tonal distances between the notes. The point is that unlike the diatonic scale, the pentatonic scale has no half steps or semitones. Which, by the way, is the same thing. So there are no chromatic notes in this scale, and that has a serious impact on the sound. Now the half steps in the major and the minor scale are experienced as nice, and they glue the notes together, which results in a melodic sound that leads to the tonic. Now a pentatonic scale, however, has only whole steps and even 1.5 step intervals. And this results in a very different, more open sound and not per definition a melodic sound. Now just listen to these melodies to compare the diatonic scale with the pentatonic scale. Now you can hear that the diatonic scale has a more classical and more melodical sound, while the pentatonic scale sounds harsher and not as smooth. It will be more familiar if you play rock and pop. Both scales have their own purpose. And because the pentatonic scale has only 5 notes instead of 7 notes like the diatonic scale, the pentatonic scale is much easier to play on the guitar, as we all have experience when we learn to play the guitar. Now that is with no doubt the reason why it's learned by all beginning guitar players. And some will keep on playing this scale exclusively, which is absolutely fine of course if you are happy with this sound. Now, even with these 5 notes and the melodic limitation due to the lack of half steps, this pentatonic scale can sound awesome and surprising when used in the right way. So let's start with level 1 on the double. Now the easiest way to apply a pentatonic scale is to play it within the key over a progression that stays in the same key. So you could play a pentatonic scale over a 6-4-1-5 progression, which is in fact a dead ringer for so many songs out there that it is almost a shame to use it, but I'm feeling shameless today, so I use it. Or say you have a 12-bar blues in A and then you play an A major pentatonic scale over this progression. Now the notes in the A major pentatonic scale are the root A, the second or ninth B, the major third C sharp, the fifth E and the major sixth A. The patterns that I use are these. Now here's an example solo. So nothing fancy here is happening in level 1, and this is basically what you learn in the first months or year of playing the guitar. So let's see what the next level has to offer. Now the tritone interval is that between the root and the augmented fourth degree. It's the most dissonant interval with lots of tension. Now exactly this dissonant note we are going to add to our minor pentatonic scale pattern. Only now we call it the diminished fifth, which is the same thing. The augmented fourth is anamolically equal to the diminished fifth. Now the name of this extra note is blue note. And if you play it, you know why it's called like that, because it has a sad touch to it. And the sound creates a kind of blue mood that is characteristic for the blues sound. Now that is why this scale is often called the blue scale instead of the minor pentatonic scale. In the A minor pentatonic scale, the blue note or diminished fifth is the note E flat, and when it's added to the pattern, it looks and sounds like this. Now by adding the blue note, we actually have created a half-step interval. In fact, we have created two half-steps interval in a row, D, E flat and E, which is called a chromatic line, multiple half steps in a row. And this will sound pretty smooth. Now adding this note to the improvisation creates tension and results in a jazzy or bluesy feel. Beware not to use the blue note as a landing tone. It should resolve or used as a passing tone. Now here's an example. Now in the next level we take it again a step further and let our sound evolve to a more coherent piece of music. Now until now we played all kind of licks that were played pretty random more or less. Now every chord has specific notes like the root, the third, the fifth, the seventh and maybe some extensions. And we can take this into account when improvising to make the improvisation sound more in relation to the chord that is being played by the rhythm section of your band or in the backing track. Now to illustrate this, we will take a 2-5-1 in C major, the D minor 7, G dominant 7 and C major 7 chord. And we will use the C major pentatonic scale for the whole progression. But before we go on, we'll have to know where the notes of the scale are located in the C major pentatonic pattern. Now in the most played pentatonic pattern, with the root on the 6th string, the notes in the pattern are located as follows. And to find the notes quickly you can make use of octave shapes like A, D, G and C. Specific notes in the C major pentatonic scale sound particularly well over a particular chord. The notes C, E and G are the notes that make up the C major triad, and over the C major 7th chord these notes will sound good but not very special. The note D is the 9th of the C major chord, and that one will sound special and very nice. Essentially you are creating a C major 9 sound and playing the note D over a C major 7th chord. Just listen to how this sounds. Also, the note A is an extension of the C major chord and turns it to a C6 or C major 13 sound, like this. So using these notes over a C major 7 chord will enrich the sound in an intellectual and above all, in a musical way. Now the same goes for the D minor 7 chord. The notes D and A in the C major pentatonic scale are part of the D minor triad and sound nice but not very special. The notes E and G do sound special because these are notes that are extensions of the D minor 7 chord. The note E is the 9th and the note G is the 11th. Also the note C is the minor 7th and sound nice. These notes color the sound. Now over a G major chord we can play the notes A and E, because these are the 9th and the 13th, and sound beautiful over this G is not dominant 7 chord. In fact, you create a G dominant 9 or G dominant 13 chord. C major pentatonic and A minor pentatonic use the same notes and thus have the same pattern. Now that's because the A minor scale is a relative minor scale of C major. The blue note from the A minor pentatonic scale can be used over a G dominant 7 chord. This blue note E flat will function as a flat 13 or a sharp 5, and in both cases the blue note is a very nice tension note over a G dominant chord and creates either a G7 flat 13 or a G7 sharp 5 chord. And the latter is also called an altered chord, and maybe you have heard of this name before. Now here's a short improvisation over the complete 2-5-1 in C major. Over the major blues, often the minor pentatonic scale is played to get tension in the improvisation. The minor third C in the A minor pentatonic scale will clash with the C sharp that is played in the A dominant 7 chord. And that is exactly what we want to get that bluesy feel. Now a great trick is to add the major third to the minor pentatonic scale from time to time, or occasionally switch to the major third instead of or after the minor third of the A minor pentatonic scale. Now a very cliché lick would be this. Now hear how it immediately sounds very bluesy and familiar. Here are a couple of ideas. Now we can also add the major sixth to the minor pentatonic scale. In the key of A minor, this is the F sharp. In A minor, this note F sharp can be played over the 4 chord D dominant 7 in the major blues, and sounds very nice for two reasons. One is that the F sharp is the major third of the D7 chord. And two is because it's the note that is not part of the A minor pentatonic scale, so it will surprise your listener. And it sounds like this. Now when the major sixth is played over an A minor 7 chord, then it sounds Dorian, because the F sharp is the major sixth in the minor scale, and that scale is called a Dorian scale, a minor scale with a major sixth. So over an A minor chord that is combined with, for instance, a major 4th degree D7, this F sharp would sound very well and creates a Dorian sound. Now in this fifth and last level we're going to do something weird. We're going to play the wrong pentatonic scale. And guess what? We do that on purpose. Because the pentatonic scale has only 5 notes, we can do special things with the scale. It's a limitation and a blessing at the same time. So let's look at the key of A minor. The notes in this scale are simple: A, B, C, D, E, F and G. In this scale there are 3 pentatonic scales hidden. One is the A minor pentatonic scale itself, A, C, D, E and G. One is the E minor pentatonic scale, E, G, A, B and D. And the last one is the D minor pentatonic scale, D, F, G, A and C. Now the last one is maybe a bit of a daring choice and harder to get right. I mean, you have to play this with care. That's also because of that minor 6th degree F that can sound a bit weird if you play it at the wrong moments or in the wrong way. Maybe best thing to do is introducing this F over the D minor 7th chord in an A minor progression, and then continue with the scale over the tonic chord and the other chords in the progression. Like this. Now the E minor pentatonic scale over an A minor chord progression is a very good choice to enhance the sound, or at least get a different sound than the A minor pentatonic scale, which would be an obvious choice. Now the note that is responsible for the new sound is the note B, which is the 9th in the A minor scale. And the 9th is a beautiful extension of the A minor chord. It sounds like this. Now over the C major progression you have the same possibilities because A minor and C major are relative scales and use the same notes. So D minor pentatonic over C major is in theory possible, but the F, which is now the 4th degree of the scale, sounds pretty weird. The 4th degree in a major scale is sometimes called an avoid note, which means that you can play it and you can use it, but with very much care, or use it only as a passing tone. Now the E minor pentatonic scale, however, sounds great. The combination of the note B and the note D sounds very nice and colorful. These are the major 7th and the 9th degree in a C major chord. Switching between the C major pentatonic scale and the E minor pentatonic scale is good practice and will give just that different sound that keeps the improvisation fresh. So, rule of thumb. Play the minor pentatonic scale of the 5th degree over a minor chord. That's E minor pentatonic over an A minor chord or progression. And play the minor pentatonic scale of the 3rd degree over a major chord or progression. That's E minor pentatonic over C major. Now, if you can walk the walk, then you can also try to play the minor pentatonic scale of the 4th degree over a minor chord or progression. That's D minor pentatonic over an A minor chord or A minor progression. Now the same principle goes for playing a minor pentatonic scale of the 2nd degree over a minor chord. And this will give you a Dorian feel because you are adding the major 6th. And it's the Dorian trigger note. This means that it is the note that is characteristic for the Dorian mode. Now when playing a B minor pentatonic scale over a C major chord, then you'll hear the C Lydian mode, which is a major scale with an augmented 4th degree. In this case, that's again the note F sharp. So, rule of thumb. Play the minor pentatonic scale of the 2nd degree over a minor chord to get a Dorian mode. That's B minor pentatonic over A minor. Or play the minor pentatonic scale of the major 7th degree over a major chord to get the Lydian mode. That's B minor pentatonic over C major. Now it's now obvious that it's not the scale itself that results in the beautiful lines and licks, but the context that the scale is played in. We can refine this even more by choosing the right notes of the scale at the right moment in time. There's an inevitable correlation between the melody and the underlying chord, so choosing the right notes is essential for the final result. And it's a natural fact that deviations and anomalies in music create a more interesting sound and touch the listener's emotions. Now those special notes, most of the time, are part of a theoretical concept that makes it easier to understand and to discuss. So being aware of that makes it easier for you to apply and to understand why it's working. Now in these 5 levels you come from applying the pentatonic scale in its most basic form to the way that jazz musicians use the pentatonic scale to create modal sounds. And it's by no means a dummy scale, but a great scale to use in any situation. Now if you are interested, you can watch my video about the exotic pentatonic scales that cover the ethnic use of the pentatonic scales and applications for it in modern Western music, like jazz and rock. It will extend your palette of beautiful colors. Like always, there will be an ebook with the content of this video available in my eShop. But for now, I say greets from the Netherlands and bye.